Today we have Vince Auricchio from Auricchio Law Services. We are going to have a master class on how to integrate faith into your work life and how to treat the consumer right. And we're going to learn a lot about real estate as well. Vince Auricchio, coming right at you. Hello, this is Steve Kaempf with the People, Not Titles podcast, and I am here with our great partner and friend, Vince Auricchio from Auricchio Law. And Vince, happy to have you, third time a returning champion for us. So thank you for being with us today and having a chat.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Vince is extremely distinguished. He was listed as the top 40, under 40. Was that as a litigator or just as a practicing lawyer?
That was in real estate.
Okay, in real estate. Fantastic. Yeah. Vince is also part of the Distinguished Council of the Globe.
Oh, sure.
Okay, it could be the universe. We can extend it, Vince, if we need to.
That would be the next organization.
Which is a distinguished honor that is given to 1% or less of the practicing counsel in the globe. So, Vince, you're a great attorney, and when I was just understanding some of your background, I was really impressed with just the recognition. And it doesn't surprise me. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And I know you're known well and loved by Chicago agents. And that's probably better than any of the other accolades that you get are people who experience you in a transaction and say, that was a wonderful job. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Your title of your podcast
I know.
Is what it's about people.
It's about people.
And I mean, maybe I should have been a school teacher. I love kids. Or maybe I could have been a therapist because I like helping people. But, through as strange as it sounds, I've been able to be a counselor and therapist in real estate, so I'm getting my fix.
Yeah, and it's a way to practice maybe which are some God-given gifts in the real world where people wouldn't expect it.
Yes.
Yeah.
We had some off-topic discussion about some of my litigation cases where I was able to help people therapeutically also, but. I'm not going to say you have to make a decision as a lawyer. Do you want to care about money or people? Mm-hmm. But if such a dichotomy exists, my wife would confirm I chose people.
Well, and I do believe that you probably have to make that decision long before the money offers start to show.
Yeah.
Right? Because all of a sudden you realize you could sell out every single day. And
choose self over others.
Choose self over others. Yeah. And I think that business is a real life test about your principles.
Yes.
And every single day you have a choice or you have an option, and sometimes the way that people win are not necessarily the winning way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think when I told my father I was going to be interested in going to law school, he had a long pause and he said, "Do you think that's right for you?" Mm. And I was a little taken aback or insulted. And he goes, No, not because of intelligence. He's like, "Why don't you be a doctor? You care about people." And he said, "It's a rough and tumble business." And then he said, on the other hand, I never knew a broke lawyer, so good luck with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's great. Yeah. So he tested you. He saw that the type of person you were and said, "Hey, is that going to be a fit for you?"
He did. And we only get one go around on planet Earth, mm-hmm. and I may not be rich, but I chose caring about people. And when those ethical dilemmas come, do you choose money or people? And it's sad what I've seen other attorneys do, but by being ethical, you end up caring about the public, caring about the client.
Yeah, that's great. Well, congratulations on a well-storied career and just the impact you're making in people's lives and in the market. So let's get into that, Vince. You are licensed in Indiana and Illinois.
Yes.
So you practice on both sides of the fence. And one, in Chicago, as we know, it's attorney agency state where attorneys are present in every transaction that our company's involved in and in every transaction that agents are involved in Chicago and the Collar counties. So let's get into that aspect of it. Just about the process of your law firm and why agents pick you over a myriad of other attorneys that they could.
Sure. First, in Illinois, as you said, we real estate agents will always recommend attorneys in real estate transactions, in residential real estate transactions.
Yep.
Whether it's Illinois or Indiana, it's fair to say most of the time there's always an attorney in a commercial deal.
Yes.
Whether it's strip malls, a bakery, a restaurant, farmland, solar, windmills on land, and that's what I'm doing in Indiana, what I've just rattled off. But in Indiana, they do not use attorneys in their transactions. From what I understand, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Indiana all either don't use attorneys for residential, condo, townhouse, single family. Don't use them, or frankly, the real estate agents frown upon using them. And I'm definitely not going to bite the hand that feeds me. The real estate agents and I are teammates on every transaction.
Right.
But in those other 3 states, I really get this sense that it's like, don't muck up my deal. Lawyers just muddy the waters.
They make it more complicated.
They make it more complicated. They ask more questions. And it doesn't mean the real estate agents don't care. They're just saying, I can take care of it. Us and the title companies, especially in Indiana, do everything.
Yeah.
You don't need
Everything.
a lawyer.
Or do they?
Well, what happens is, first on the front end problems, then on the back end problems. So in Indiana, and my website has blogs about this, the difference between Illinois and Indiana transactions. And I've been in Indiana now 6 years, and now I'm finally comfortable speaking to the difference after years of experience. Not vast, but enough deals. In Indiana, the real estate agents on the front end say, you don't need a lawyer, I can do everything. They go over the inspections, they talk to the other side, and it's a fill-in-the-blank cookie-cutter contract. Why would you need a lawyer? They say this in Indiana. And then the second there's any problem, the real estate agents have to say, I'm not a lawyer, I can't help you. And I get calls after closings. Where an agent or a party, usually a buyer, because the sellers are long gone, it's the buyer or the agent goes, Vince, can you get involved? We had a problem with the transaction. And I'm so fond of saying, if you would have only used me, like in Illinois, for the cheap buy that us flat fee attorneys charge, okay? If you had only used us, we could avoid the problems on the front end. Now that's the problems.
So you don't have to use one, but you can.
You can.
Yes.
Yeah, and you know this, but I'll say it.
Yeah.
There's no law to use a lawyer in Illinois.
Yes.
But there's a lot more work on transactions in Illinois and a lot more moving parts, and everyone appreciates the lawyers working on residential deals in Illinois because there's so much more to do than Indiana, but also the agents stay in their lane. Illinois, I know resident real estate agent who's both Illinois and Indiana, and she's like, it's so stressful working on Indiana deals because I'm practicing law.
Yes.
And then if something blows up, I can't give advice.
Yes.
And here's what I always get. Well, Vince, what's the problem in India? What do you need a lawyer for? What are some of the problems? Well, first of all, the cookie cutter contract in Indiana says survey optional, not paid by seller. So what happens is the Indiana real estate agents say to the buyer, don't spend the $500, $550
save
on
the
a
money.
surveyor, save the money.
Yeah.
You're so stretched so thin buying this house. The title company does a review, you'll be fine.
Yes.
So now you have buyers in my experience based on no one getting a survey and my belief, 95% of Indiana buyers today probably never got a survey and they bought.
Wow.
So if you don't have a survey, you know what that means? You don't know where your property begins and ends.
What's on it
And
what
you don't
isn't
know
on
what's
it.
on it.
Yeah.
You don't know who's infringing on who.
Yeah.
Whether you're building or something's going on somebody else's land or somebody's going on yours.
Yes.
And it's a stupid little box. And the buyer's like, well, if my agent's telling me I don't need a survey, why would I get one?
Right.
Now in Illinois, the contract says survey to be paid by seller and is required.
Yes.
So the Illinois system protects the buyer more with that. So then you get calls later like, oh, somebody's concrete driveway is on my land, and I went out there with a pickaxe, and the next door neighbors threatened me with a gun.
Right. Right.
Or their fence is on my side. Now there's no title
They built a
insurance for
shed.
fence,
Yeah.
but it's knowledge.
Yes.
They built a shed, the driveway.
Yeah.
So big differences. The reason why people choose us though is, first of all, we get all our recommendations through real estate agents. Steve, I just did a huge media blitz. LinkedIn, social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, spent thousands of dollars. not a single new deal. We don't get it from advertising as real estate attorneys, but the real estate agents. So the long-winded answer is...
They're the top of the food chain.
They're the top of the food chain, and they recommend us. And what real estate agents want is someone who won't drop the ball and will treat... There's three things. They don't make mistakes. Fine, nobody's perfect, but we don't try not to drop a ball. Second, they treat the client well. Third, they pick up the phone. We are commodities as real estate lawyers. The only thing we can do to distance ourselves is do our best to not make mistakes, treat the client with respect, and pick up the phone.
Yes.
I think that's why people like working with me and the attorneys that work with my firm, is that. Yeah,
and you've defined the value of, I think a lot of times agents in Illinois, who, if they don't practice in other states, it's like the last one to notice the water is the fish. They don't realize the burden that has been lifted from them, so they can actually go and do and be who they're supposed to be, which is, available for the clients, moving on to the next transaction, making sure everything's safe and taken care of, but they don't have to manage every single, minuscule detail.
Yes.
And so that's the value for you. And I think in, Indiana or whatever those states are, they're burdened with all of these different things and then still having to worry about it. And then if things fall through, they have to call an attorney, and that makes them look bad as well.
Well, yeah, and then an Indiana real estate agent could get to the point where a buyer says to them, you didn't tell me I had to do that.
Yeah.
And then what are they going to do? They're going to say, well, that's a legal issue, but then again, you told me I didn't need a lawyer. Or they're going to say, that's not in my lane, and you're on your own. So I literally had a buyer not too long ago, a post-closing buyer in Indiana who I never met before except a phone call after the closing, a potential client, which the attorney-client privilege applies to a potential client. So I'll give no details other than generalities.
Sure.
And it was my agent didn't tell me X, and when I said to her, I have a problem, she goes, I can't help you, that's a legal issue. And I was like, and then I waited, and she said, and we've said it 3 times already, she said, and I asked her, do I need a lawyer? And she said no. So I feel bad for these Indiana agents.
Totally.
But then again, their brokerages, their bosses are telling them, don't recommend lawyers because we muck it up. Going back to the very first thing. So, so it's been an interesting ride. Now in Illinois, it's more team approach.
Absolutely.
But it's wonderful. The agents are like, if they hook up with an attorney they like, it's like hand them off the nuclear football or a football. They're just like, run with it, Vince.
Yes.
So the agents do all the work until you're under contract, and then the lawyer can do the rest. And honestly, there are agents who like to be involved along the way once the lawyer's involved, and there are plenty of agents who are, if they know you and your
once you have a
style,
relationship, cadence, all that.
they're like, I'll see you at the closing.
Yes.
And then all they have to do is field calls from their clients. But what a lot of real estate attorneys may or may not do, I know some don't, I always do, is I do an initial phone call and review the contract's terms. I mean, and newbie buyers, it'll be 45 minutes to an hour. And a lot of lawyers don't like to do that because they pull almost like the Indiana approach, like, well, the contract's the contract, it's cut and paste, it's right there. Well, no, I like to explain the terms so the client
what the
knows
risks
what they're
are of
getting into.
asking for certain things or whatever it might be.
I say 3 things to them. Let's go over, during that call, let's go over the most important terms. Let's talk through the process from today through closing, and do you have any questions? I just had a call from a brand new agent who wants to start working with me. She said the most recent lawyer doesn't have initial calls with them, with their own clients. So here you got brand new buyers filling out a 14-page contract, the biggest deal of their lives, $400,000, $500,000 condos in Chicago, and the lawyer is just like, yeah, we'll just run with it, I'll see you later.
Looks good.
And Steve, maybe I'm dumping on my brethren too much, but the reason is clear. The reason is it's flat fee work, and anytime a lawyer gets a flat fee, they try to cut corners and do the least.
Right.
I say to them or the theoretical man, then don't do this work.
Yes.
You have to treat
This is the
that
job.
flat fee deal like you would treat Warren Buffett as your client paying hourly. That's your duty as a lawyer.
Powerful. So we talked about the agent's role in just comparing Indiana to Illinois, but then there's also the title company role, and some of that is assumed by the attorney as well in the Chicagoland area.
Yes.
Right, which is clearing title, making sure that there's, all the various things in the past are cleared up so that everyone can feel comfortable.
Correct. Yeah, so I can't provide clients or Illinois citizens with life insurance, car insurance, or medical insurance. But as a licensed real estate attorney, by signing up and registering with the state
As
of
an
Illinois,
agent,
I can be what's called a co-producer, a fellow insurance agent with the title company. And my law firm's malpractice insurance is involved in providing title insurance. And I like to call, and it's your business, but for all out there, I like to call title insurance, and I dumb it down. There's more to it, people, but I dumb it down for myself. Deal protection insurance for the buyer for the history of this dirt.
Yes.
Of this land.
Yes.
What is, not fire insurance if the place burns,
Right.
not flood insurance, that's what your homeowner's insurance is,
Yeah.
but going back to, I don't know, 1847, whenever they founded Illinois, Cook County, I mean, going back to the beginning, what is the history of stuff that happened with that land? And us lawyers are blessed in Illinois to work with the title companies to play a role in reviewing that history so that a buyer can get an insurance product that, goodness forbid, a month after closing, there's a knock on their door, we got a problem, that they have an insurance product. And the two main examples I give my clients in my first call with them are, you could be at your door, a month later you get a knock on the door, there's an electrician, he goes, hey, I did electrical work there 2 months ago, you owe me $4,000. And you're the brand new buyer, and you say to the electrician, go pound sand, my seller hired you. And the electrician goes, no, my work is inside your land, the electrical, it attaches, it is a lien called the mechanic's lien, you owe me. That's a title insurance problem. And then the two more examples relate to seller to buyer, what if there was a defect in the ownership transfer? You could get a knock on your door. A silly example, Steve, you'll laugh, that's how stupid it is. But knock, there's like an 80-year-old guy, he's like, yeah, back in the 80s, my nephew sold this land out from under me. He forged my name on a deed. I'm gonna have, I own part of your condo. And the condo's like, what are you talking? But the new buyer's like, what are you talking about? Well, this could be a chain of title issue, whether or not the buyer has insurance. And the last is, let's say you're at the closing table and a seller pays off Chase Bank loan, the buyer buys that land, gets the keys, go home. 2 months later, they get a letter in the mail. Wells Fargo says, you never paid off a Wells Fargo mortgage. Well, under certain circumstances, this would have to be, the stars would have to align. It's not automatic, but the buyer could have insurance protection for that mortgage that wasn't taken care of. So that's how we lawyers with the title company, we play a role. We examine, we review all these things. You know, in the old days, I used to get a packet in the mail of documents this thick.
Yes.
Now it's by email PDF.
Yes. And if any of those things were even legitimate, the insurance covers the new buyer. It doesn't matter if anyone has a legitimate claim or not, you're covered and protected because of the work that you've done, the insurance company has done, and that kind of thing. So that's a great explanation. It is interesting to consider that there is not a commercial deal where there typically are higher stakes, corporate entities, people who get fired if it doesn't go right, where they wouldn't use an attorney. And that kind of speaks to some of the aspect of, hey, this is a serious real estate transaction, whether it be just residential, or commercial. There's going to be legal scenarios that more than likely crop up, and it's better to involve the attorney earlier as opposed to post facto.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that it should be said, not the amount, but it's flat fee work. For residential.
Cheap insurance.
Cheap insurance.
Yeah.
Condos, townhouses, single family residences, residents, not business people. Residential work. Get a lawyer. And I told you this off camera. I have no credibility. Everyone's like, well, Vince, of course you're going to say, get a lawyer. You're the lawyer.
Right.
You're the one who wants to get paid. Well, fine, don't use me, but
Right.
you need a lawyer.
Yeah.
You know, I moved to Indiana in 2014, and I bought in Indiana as a buyer and went through the process and was in shock of that. No, and I was a lawyer out of Illinois, but was in shock that no one used a lawyer in the process because it's still a big deal.
It's the same transaction, right? I mean, it's complicated. There's a lot of moving parts,
Yeah.
and you knew what you were doing,
And it
so
was
to
still
speak.
stressful.
And it was still stressful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, you do commercial business.
Yes.
And there's a lot of residential attorneys that every now and then get a commercial deal, and they're like, okay, let me try to work with the title company to get this done.
Yeah.
But commercial is in your wheelhouse.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of the nuances of that and the type of commercial stuff that you're working on, Vince.
Sure, it's a tale of two cities, but it's called a comeback.
Sure.
Okay, so from 2000 to 2007 was working like gangbusters, residential and commercial. And I love the commercial work, which is typically hourly or a much bigger flat fee
Yes.
in the right projects. So I was busy. I had 5 developers. And then for young people, there was something called a financial collapse.
Yep, watch The Big Short if you want a quick
It's awesome.
study.
Yes. But in '08, there was, so get this, everyone thinks the world came to an end in September of '08 prior to the election, because that's when that TARP money went out from George Bush.
Yep.
But actually, things had, but by third quarter 2007,
Yep.
those of us
You
in the
started
real
to
estate
see the
started to see the
cracks.
slowdown.
Yep.
So we knew a whole year before, and then the news media in the world
Right.
collapsed. in 08.
Countrywide,
Yeah.
New Century,
Lehman
all that.
Brothers,
Yeah, Lehman Brothers, all
So
that.
third quarter '08 is when most the newspapers were reporting heavily on it. But a year before in the real estate field, we saw a slowdown.
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, like of my 5 top developers, and this is like, terrible, like whose wife committed suicide, who ran from the IRS up to, these are developers and builders and
Yes.
my clients, who's ran up and I think is still hiding in Wisconsin right now, who left the business completely, who retired. I was down to 1 commercial guy, and then he stopped in 2012. So I did a ton of commercial, new construction developments, apartment buildings,
Condo conversions.
condo conversions,
Yes.
condo deconversions.
Deconversions.
So very active. Then crickets from basically '08 to 2012, 2013, and then it's random, man. So like as far as new development, go-to guys, no. I will do those things I mentioned, bakeries, restaurants, buys, sales, leases, strip malls.
Yes.
That's always nice.
Yes.
Pre-pandemic, I had a commercial condo where they built out a amorphous warehouse into 12 micro condos.
Yes.
And it was to help foreign nationals get residency to do business from China. So that was fascinating to do a build out from scratch of raw space.
Okay.
Really a fun process. Some things I never had experience in until then. And then now it's a lot of leases, a lot of windmill and solar farm data centers deals, land leases. So the stuff above, not just the land. And that's what I'm doing now. My mix, sure, more residential than commercial, but I do both, and I like having that ability to do both. Also, don't want to stress it because I'm trying to have zen in my life and less litigation.
Yep.
But yes, on our website, us and some of the lawyers, we do real estate litigation. I have a tab, and I get a ton of calls for real estate litigation. The problem is, if it's not a small business or a company, a lot of people don't have the ability to fund the litigation.
Yes.
And I say to them, either A, settle this right now, B, don't do it, or C, it's going to cost X. And if you tell people the truth of what's going to 40 hours of work per year,
It may not go the way you want it
to
to.
get 2 years to
Yeah.
get to trial, to then spend an 80-hour trial, even if you're bad at math, that's 40 plus 40, that's 160 hours of attorney time
Yeah.
where there's no personal injury, like there's no, oh, give me a third,
Right.
it's just work.
Yep.
And a lot of times they gladly say, thank you for your honesty, Vince, no, I don't need litigator.
Is there anything, and I love the fact that you have broad experience and that you're able to really hyper-focus on residential real estate where you bring in the broad experience, litigation, all the different various elements of a land transaction and all that. I believe it makes it more powerful. Even for the simplest deals, you're able to think of things from a higher point of view and yet still get down into the details.
I appreciate the way you say it. I'll say yes.
Okay.
And I can't prove it to you, but I also think I bring a sense of peace. Like, okay, so let's say I started doing this work 99, 2000. You're at the closing table as a brand new real estate lawyer. You're panicked.
Yes.
You're a little wide-eyed. The title company person will come in, say something, we got a problem. Everyone at the table staring at you, and it could be stressful. And I'm going to tell you, Steve, I see something new almost every deal. So
which makes it exciting and interesting, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I haven't stopped learning.
Right.
But I think, I can't prove it, you'd have to ask my clients, but I think I bring peace because I'm like, okay, what's the problem?
Yeah.
And I've either seen it before and this is not me, this is called experience.
Absolutely.
Anyone 27 years or more, or 5 years or more. I think I bring peace because when the title agent comes in, we got a problem. I'm like, okay, what is it? And short of having no survey at the table and not being able to close, everything is fixable with money if the parties want to.
That's great. And when you hear that we have a problem, you're thinking, okay, I've seen problems. This is not a problem. It's an issue. We could solve it. So I love the
You either
piece.
move the closing date or you throw more money at it.
Yeah, and you did mention, Vince, that an attorney is a commodity. However, I do believe that a good attorney can elevate the reputation and experience of an agent exponentially, where all of the peace and all of the zen that you provide, which is a great, just temporal impact on the moment, but it also translates to better rating for the agent, more likelihood for referrals, or whatever those things are, because people can't put their finger on it, but they just think to themselves, well, I had a great experience. Well, this person smoothed out a lot of kind of the rough roads, or maybe they might even notice that the road was rough because it just felt smooth to them.
Yeah, well, by people's not titles, by caring about people.
Yes.
I'm not saying we hide things from our clients, but if you can handle problems before having to bring it to them,
and even
that's
see them coming,
smoothing out they don't know about. Your point. And then if there happens to be a curveball or problem, and you handle it with gravitas or without freaking out, it brings peace. And I like to think that the agents can rely on me to have their clients tell them this was a good experience. So I'll say it, maybe it's not in my best interest, but a lot of attorneys don't like to work with first-time buyers. I might have even said that, I'm having a flashback, either you or someone else, it might have been on one of our other podcasts. I love it. And I really do.
That's great.
And the reason is, it's like being at somebody's birthday party. They're buying their house for the first time.
Yes.
You are there they can buy more real estate in the future, but they'll never be your first.
Right.
And we're not going to get saucy or
right
about that phrase.
Right.
They will never have another first buying experience. So let's say you didn't have any problems, or let's say you were peaceful and smooth and over any problems. They will remember it. We take pictures. I ask, hey, without mentioning your name or the property address, can I put you on my electronic newsletter? And it's simply another successful closing with a thumbs up. And 9 out of 10 say yes. Some people say, I don't want a photo. Okay, but it's a celebration. I tell them, bring their kids. The title companies go mad. Don't bring kids. He's with the title company. And I'm like, bring the kids. They're excited for their first home. Single first-time college graduate buying a condo. They're excited.
Love it.
Married couple, first time buying a house together. Little kids getting their first room. I get jazzed up.
That's awesome.
I love helping these people. Now, the reason why the lawyers tend to shy from this is it's a lot more work on the front end. You're on the phone with them more. There's more questions. There's more concerns. There's
opportunity for more fear.
More lending curveballs because first time buyer. But I get jazzed up. I love working with first time.
That's great, and that's really we call it the American dream. There's a lot of dreams in America, but this is, you're delivering on the American dream, and for the very first time, they've entered into that next phase of maturity of life or whatever it is on this planet, getting their piece. Well, that's great. Vince, I want to talk about how you are able, well, let's talk about the NAR settlement.
Okay.
That August of 24, there was a big kerfluffle, a lot of big checks written out by brokerages after that settlement, a lot of anxiousness from agents to think, oh, am I valuable? Will my value hold, especially as a buyer's agent? How have you seen it shake out based upon what, you were lived through it, you were working with agents through that, and now you see kind of the dust settling on it. Has much changed?
So there's two parts to that litigation that I'm familiar with, but to answer your question, nothing's changed.
Yeah.
And it's weird, or wasn't what the government intended, or I don't know. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was what they intended, and me or some of us
The
aren't.
People Not Titles podcast is brought to you by Land Trust Title Services, your partners for results.
Or some of us aren't in the know to know what they were accomplishing. But there's this contract called the Multi-State Board 8.0. For the listeners or viewers, there's two main contracts we use in the Illinois area. One is called the CAR, the CAR, Chicago Association of Realtors. It's about 4 or 5 pages nowadays. And there's the multi-board. And it had numbers. There was the first version, the 7th version. We're up to the 8.0, the 8, more than 8 versions.
And this was kind of really born out of the NAR settlement. And some other things that
you may know more than I do.
Yeah, that
it
people
was an
wanted
8.0 that came right after.
Yeah, exactly.
And the 8.0 is actually a 14-pager. And before people go, actually the 5-pager has much tighter print. So if it was the same size, if it was the same size, if same font, it might be the same length.
Yeah.
But you got the 4 to 5 pager and the 14-pager. The 14-pager is the 8.0 after the settlement. And on page 1, it just says right here in 3/4 of the way down, it'll say who's paying the buyer's side real estate agent commissions. Because in every deal you usually have 2 agents, a sell side and a buy side. And the sell side, everyone knows who's paying that. And page 1 now of the 8.0 makes clear, is the seller paying the real estate agent commissions for the buyer or not? And before everyone says, well, everyone should pay their own commissions. No, that's not how we always did it.
That's right.
The seller always paid the commissions, but this is no dirty little secret. But everyone just simply understood it was baked in to the offer price.
Yes, absolutely.
And the beauty of the old way...
And it was baked in when they bought the home.
When they bought the home.
Yeah.
And the beauty of the old way was the buyer wanted it that way. The buyer... One possibility, people, is the buyer didn't mind paying more of a sales price, knowing that the seller was paying the buyer's agent fee because the buyer would get a higher loan.
And they would not have to bring that cash to the table.
Right.
Yeah.
And to now, for the government to say, no, everyone has to pay their own agent. Let's start there. Let's do 2 hypotheticals. Number 1, the government's saying, we need clarity. We need everyone to pay, to be clear who's paying what, and we think the sellers were being screwed under the old way. We think the sellers were being bamboozled. They didn't know what was going on. They didn't know they were paying the buyer's agent's fee. Now, people dispute that. Everyone thinks that's not true, but that was the government's position.
Yeah.
Sellers weren't informed.
Right.
The problem with this is, if you do it the new way, the buyers don't have the money to pay a buyer's agent fee if they can't get a loan to absorb it.
That's right. That's right.
So the old way was, it was baked into the cake. Higher sales price, seller pays the buyer's agent, buyer gets a loan to cover it.
Yes.
The new way, if the government's goal was to have buyers pay it, buyers who are always, I was there. You find a house, you always stretch. You stretch when you buy. You stretch to your last penny. You always buy more. It's American dream, but it's the American way to buy more house than you can afford.
And a lot of people, if they're going to move, they're thinking to themselves,
bigger.
I want to get bigger, and I want to buy, I don't want to move again. So I want to even envision myself 5 years from now, what
Yes.
my family's going to look like, and I want to have a house that I can grow into.
They buy
so
more.
They buy more. So
Yeah. So if you buy more, now what is the new way? Well, one possible new way is the buyers pay their own agent fee. So then they offer the seller less, but the buyers have no money to pay the agent
Yes.
because they're not bootstrapping with the loan.
that's right. That's right.
But the reason why we said nothing happened is page 1 of the contract says who pays it? Sellers are checking the box, and everyone's making the seller pay it anyway.
Yes, and what I think was in question, maybe what the government was questioning is there value to the buyer's agent? Do they deserve as much? So there was this question: are they just opening doors, or are buyers now finding properties on their own? And but what we're finding out, and what has held value, because I think the buyer's agent sat back and said, wait a second, there's about 50 things I do on every buy that I don't talk about, and I don't have to justify to anybody, but I just know I do them. And now all of a sudden, they're able to sit down with the buyer early on and say, hey, listen, here's my value. I'm going to get it from you, I'm going to get it from the seller. And then they start having that conversation, and now they have a dedicated relationship with the buyer's agent. And what I found is that most buyer's agents that could have that conversation are still in the business.
Yeah.
Those that couldn't are gone. Those that thought they are just door openers or whatever it is. So I think that is, but outside of the checks being written and all the fear and all the things, I think the buyer's agent has been elevated to the point of, yes, you're important. Just like people want to say an attorney is not necessary. There's a lot of smart people out there that think an agent's not necessary. I can sell it by myself. And I'm sure you have experiences of working with people who didn't use an agent and people who do, and the different scenarios and troubles that come when there isn't an agent in the transaction.
All right, so I got to figure out how to say this because I'm not as smooth as you.
Yeah.
Whether you realize or not, what you just said was by using the phrase, the buyer's agent were faced with asking themselves, are they relevant? Then I'll follow this path with you if you want to do this on tape, on film.
Let's do it.
You're saying, without saying it, that the government's intent of restructuring the real estate agent commission structure was because of the internet, we're going to save the American people money and wipe out buyer's agents. That could have been the nefarious attempt of the lawsuit, but that's not how it's framed. But I agree with my conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Okay. Which you didn't say because you said it much more smoothly.
Yeah.
Because this is a tough conversation, and I may not be able to articulate it as well, but. My understanding from the lawsuit was it was two parts. There was collusion with the computer MLS, that the brokerage, that NAR was restricting access to it. Shame on you, NAR, the government says. And the second was sellers are ill-informed or not being properly informed of the process. So it was two parts.
Right.
It was smack on the wrist. Monopoly. You're not allowed to restrict access to the multiple listing service, the computer posting of where homes are advertised.
Yep.
And the second was, shame on you, real estate agents, you're bamboozling sellers.
Right.
Now,
you're making money for nothing.
Now, why does the government think you're bamboozling sellers? Because the sellers would sign up first with a seller's real estate agent, a listing agent, for, let's just use, you could say 5 or 6%.
Yeah.
Let's say 6%, a lot of parts of the country. I saw 5% more often in Illinois.
And I believe, by the way, that 1%, just my hypothesis, I believe that 1% is taken out in Illinois because they're making room for the attorney.
Oh.
Okay, and so I think the 6% is
I just learned something today.
We have all this work to do, so it's 3 and 3. But in the Chicago market, where people think, oh, attorney's expensive, blah blah blah. No, you actually are offloading some of the work that you don't really want to do anyway, and that has to be protected legally if something goes wrong. You've offloaded 1% of that commission to the attorney and said, they're going to be a partner with me in this transaction, which is why it's so important to pick a real estate attorney as opposed to my cousin Vinny or whatever it might be. And so So all that to say, that's a little bit
Do you
of
want
my
to follow my
insight.
cousin rabbit trail for a second? My cousin.
Sure, let's do
We'll
it.
get back to the
Yeah.
Nor in a second. I was Vinny my entire life till I was 21 years old.
Vinny, that's funny.
So I'm in college as a junior in college.
Okay.
And my fraternity brothers know I want to go to law school. And that stupid movie, My Cousin Vinny, comes out.
You're like,
With
Vince.
Joe Pesci.
I'm Vince.
So for the senior year of college, all I heard were My Cousin Vinny jokes. So I graduate
funny.
college, I go to law school. I began law school as Vince because I didn't want to be My Cousin Vinny the lawyer.
Yes, I never made the connection, so good move.
But I decided that if I'd only been true to myself, I probably would have been the only lawyer named Vinny in Chicago. There's no
I think they
there's
could have helped
Vince
you.
and Vincent's.
Yeah.
There's not a single Vinny. I could have marketed it as the only Vinny lawyer.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
but I'm
powerful.
Vince. All right. Well, back to NAR. So now you have sellers signing up with their real estate agents at 5%.
Yes.
And what was known by sellers that the government claims the sellers didn't know
100%.
was that in that agreement that the seller signed said, I can cooperate with any other real estate agents who have a license.
Yes.
That's the buyer's agent
That's a
clause.
co-op.
That's called a co-op.
Mhm.
So then what would happen is the seller knew the real estate agent fee was 5%. And let's play this out. What if a buyer walked in with no agent? The seller paid 5%
Anyway,
to their agent.
right.
So the seller always knew the percentage. The government told an untruth.
Right.
Okay, so the seller always knew it was 5%. Then, let's say now the buyer walks in with an agent. Buyer's agent walks in, they make an offer, accepted, love connection, then they split that 5%, 2.5 to the seller, 2.5 to the buyer's real estate agent, agent
Right.
and agent. Guess what? Seller still knew about the 5%. So for the government to come along and say the sellers had no bargaining power or knowledge of where their money go, I never thought was true. Now, you could say, well, the government was right, Vince, and you're wrong, Vince, because then the seller would never find a real estate agent to agree to go less than 5%. I say Redfin.
Absolutely.
I say young, hungry real estate agents. There were always agents who would do it less than 5%.
Absolutely.
Now, the government said, no, this is market manipulation. The sellers are treated unfairly. They don't have knowledge. And they have to pay somebody else's fee. But no, they started with the 5% to begin with. So now, where are we? Now the seller's agent will give a form. It's 2.5%. And in the offer and acceptance, they negotiate who's going to pay the buyer's agent. And because I've said 5 times, buyers are broke without a lender.
And sellers want to sell.
And sellers want to sell. That if the seller, that's why we've seen nothing happen, because the sellers are still paying the buyer's agent.
That's right. Well, and I think out of all of that, and even the NAR, you know, my conspiracy theory about the agents commission, the NAR came out and said the government, the DOJ thinks our agents make too much.
Yeah.
And so what is held after 18 months of this, basically, or maybe we're 12 or 14 months into it, is agent value is held. And that the value,
I'm glad for the agents.
absolutely.
This is people's livelihood, and they do. Okay. Oh my gosh, 27 years. Once, I can think of once that a buyer's agent didn't deserve their commission. And do you know why I know that?
Why?
Because it wasn't someone I worked with regularly.
Okay.
Because my buyer on the phone told me, I found the place 2 days after I signed up with the agent. My agent didn't even recommend it to me. So the buyer was mad that they had signed up with an agent, but the buyer continued looking. So once out of 27 years, I had a buyer claim that the buyer's agent did nothing. And I guess it's possible. It's theoretically possible that a buyer will sign up with the buyer's agent will begin their work, and you can't blame the buyer's agent if within 24 to 48 hours, a buyer says, oh, I found this place on my own. Can you call to get me in there? So the buyer's agent picks up the phone, makes a call. It hardly ever happens this way. It's never this easy.
Right.
You know, shows them 3 days later they're under contract. So once a buyer claimed the buyer's agent didn't deserve their fee. Now, that minimizes what they do during the transaction, but all that heavy legwork, like, oh, I showed this person 30 places, that didn't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so all that to say that we believe in the agent's value.
Yes.
You see it every single day, and a workman's worth his wage. We recently heard that 18% of the U.S. economy is situated in the real estate profession and in the real estate market, and so it's a large chunk of the market that people are helping navigate the average consumer through. Bravo to them. I want to wrap up, Vince, with you have on your website, we're a Christian company. And I think someone would just watch us and go, oh, I get it now. You know what I mean? Just because of the way you care. But how do you integrate anything else that you want to add to how Auricchio Law and how Vince personally is able to integrate faith? A lot of times people are, I go to church, I give, I this, I that, and it's almost like separate from work. It's like the sheepdog and the coyote where they beat each other up all day long and then they say, good night, Ralph.
Yeah.
You know, but how do you carry your faith and into your everyday work life?
Okay, sure. Well, first you have to start with, does a person have faith? And it could be any,
Yes.
in any Judaism, Islam. Okay, so if someone doesn't have faith, then this conversation it doesn't apply to them.
Yeah.
They have their own principles and directions from other
integrities
sources.
and whatever else.
But if you have faith, that's really interesting point about the coyote. Okay, you have faith, you have to make a choice. Do you integrate it or not, and do you share it or not? Now, I'll start backwards before going to the present. I'm in my third year of law school. I'm with what we all would call a guidance counselor, but it was the professional liaison to the law firms. Oh my gosh, what was it? The Career Center.
Okay.
The Career Center. And they have you prepare a resume. So you're a third year law student. I'm 24 or 5 years old. So I prepare the resume, and at the bottom it has activities or organizations, and I had CLS, Christian Legal Society. So while I was a law student, I was a part of the local chapter at DePaul College of Law. They had a CLS, a Christian Legal Society group. So this is to answer, like, do you integrate or not? It happened in the beginning. The woman says to me, she meant well, she goes, you know, I see you have Christian Legal. This is 1995, okay? So, or 96. So you don't have to think like, oh, what is today's society? No, think of what it was in 96.
Sure.
It was probably even easier to be religious back then.
Absolutely.
Or not scared about offending people and losing business.
Yes.
1996, she goes, you know what, Vince? I see you're a part of that organization. You might want to consider taking it off. And I was like, oh, why? She goes, well, you want to cast a wide net when you apply for a job, and someone might be offended or see Christian Legal Society and say your resume is done. So I went home that night. Gosh, I'm not even gonna lie to you. When I was in law school, I was more focused on my fiance or girlfriend and
trying to make it,
and life. I don't know how much I prayed back then, to be honest with you, because it was just, it didn't kick in till later. But I was like, wow, like I remember I remember a Bible verse. It was Jesus said, if you will be embarrassed about me before men, I will be embarrassed of you before God.
Yeah.
And I went home that night and I thought about it. I probably prayed, don't remember, it's a little fuzzy right now. And I went in the next time I met with her, I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to leave it on.
Oh.
She goes, well, and she was trying to help me. And I was like, if I, before my career even starts,
if
I compromise my principles of my Christian faith, and
I'm embarrassed about it. If I think it's going to limit me and my opportunity in my life.
So I left it on, and I got a job right out of law school. In fact, I know the economy's been up and down since 97 when I graduated. That was 96 when I started job hunting. Well, I graduate, and I was an above average student, but I wasn't top 10% in my class. And there's some brilliant people out there.
Yes.
Okay? I went to Vanderbilt University. I went to Hunter College High School. These are like top schools in America at each level. But no. There are some brilliant people out there. And I have a phrase for you. 90% of lawyers weren't in the top 10.
Ooh. Wow.
Okay? So 90% of lawyers weren't in the top 10%. So I wasn't top 10%.
Yeah, you were in
of
good
my-
company.
So I was in 90, I'm a 90% of the lawyers. I'm in that company. I wasn't in top 10%. You know, I was the only guy, so career guidance people told me I was the only person not in the top 10 to have a job out of law school.
Ooh.
And I never blamed it or sourced
Right.
it to the resume, but I was like, that's a coincidence.
Yes.
So it started early on, the challenge of do you share, do you be open about your faith? Well, fast forward to 2012, 2013, I honestly don't remember when I updated this. So I go into business on my own in 2006, and I don't remember when I got my first website.
Yeah.
Somewhere between 06 and 2011, we websites weren't
No, they
everywhere.
weren't a thing, yeah.
Okay. Somewhere between 06 and 2011, I have a marketing consultant. You know where this is going
Yes.
because I'm bringing the story.
Yes.
It's parallel. They're like, tell us about yourself. And I'm like, well, I'm a Christian. I try to integrate, you know, love your neighbor and
Treat others how you want to be
others
treated.
how you want to
Yeah.
be treated, and the client's always first, and sacrifice. And I don't even know if the marketing people believe me
Yeah,
because it
like-
sounds like a
yeah.
bunch of
Yeah,
hocus
yeah,
pocus.
yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm a Christian, and like, all right. And I said, you know, I want even just once.
Yeah.
And I think it's only one location.
One location.
I said, even once, I want to say that, you know, we're a Christian firm.
Right.
And they're like, no.
Right.
And this is about the website, okay?
Yes.
And they're like, you do not want to do that. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding? This is
Wow.
20 years later or 15 years later, and I'm like, really? So I prayed about it at that point, and I was like, oh, heck no. I'm going to put it on there, come what may. And you haven't even asked me about our tagline, which was 2018, making real estate great again. It's not a Christian topic. but
Right,
that's
right.
the same
Yeah.
topic.
Yes.
I'll get to that another time with you. But so I had to face whether to integrate it into our marketing materials.
Mhm.
I had to integrate it into my resume at the very beginning of my career life, and then challenges during your practice. I
The
hope
daily tests.
I don't know if my wife's going to want me to share this, but I
Right.
will. There was one time I did something ethically that cost me $20,000 that a client was screwing me out of.
Mm.
And my wife, who had my firstborn child in her arms, was 1 year old, screamed at me from the stairwell, "You and Jesus are going to send us to the poorhouse." And she marched up the stairs
Wow.
and left me alone to contemplate that I just
Yeah.
disappointed my wife.
Yeah.
So
Pressure, right?
and that was during the Great Collapse. That was
Yeah.
about my daughter was 1 year old, so this was in the tough years, and you know, the rubber hits the road. You got to make a choice.
Absolutely.
And do you have one more minute for me to tell you how that
Absolutely.
cost me
We have
20
plenty.
grand?
Yeah.
Okay. So my friend and buddy, colleague, so I opened my practice in 06, and I was doing medical malpractice litigation. I used to represent doctors in hospitals and do real estate on the side for 10 years.
Wow.
From 97 to 06. 06, I went out on my own to do real estate.
Mm.
I launched a real estate practice on the eve of the Great Depression II caused by real estate.
Wow.
Crickets, no work from
Mhm.
06, 07, 08. Right around 08, my buddy calls me and he goes, "Vince, I know you're looking for work. Do you want to do a personal injury matter?" I'm like, I was a defense lawyer for 9 years. I don't know if I want to be a plaintiff's lawyer. He goes, no, I think it's a good case. I'm like, tell me about it. He goes, it's a medical malpractice case. I'm like, dude, those are like the hardest things, and we have to fund it ourselves as lawyers.
Mhm.
Even though I had 10 years on defense, okay,
Sure.
representing the insurance companies and the hospitals.
Yeah.
So then he says, no, this woman, we'll call her Sue, that's not her name. Sue is a widow and her husband died. I'm like, oh, a wrongful death case. He goes, he committed suicide. I'm like, let's call him Dan. Okay,
Yeah.
that's not his name.
Yeah.
I go, Dan, where's a lawsuit for a suicide? And he goes, well, he was receiving care at a county hospital, outpatient therapy, counseling, and I have the family, and I think they didn't treat him right. And I'm like, Steve, Dan, whatever, I don't want this case. And it was a Monday. And he goes, well, will you think about it? I go, Steve, I'm sorry, you're Steve. Dan, I go, Dan, there's 2 great reasons you never do this case. Number 1, You don't have a medical malpractice when someone kills themselves. That's called suicide. There's an intervening cause.
Yep.
What the defense is, the person killed by their own hand. How do you
Right.
blame the remote cause?
Right.
So suicides are bad cases, even in just situations. Second, you never ask the county taxpayers who are going to be the juror to pay them to charge themselves.
Yes.
Jury, this guy deserves $1 million because you got to pay it, taxpayer.
Right.
So the jurors are going to say,
No
forget
way.
this.
Yeah.
So Steve goes, will you just think about it? And Dan was a Christian guy, and he goes, pray on it. I'm like, sure. I was like, but I'm not taking this case, Dan.
Right. Right.
So I pray on this. I'm sorry, it's getting so long.
No,
Is
no,
this
no.
okay?
I like it.
So I pray on it Monday night. So Dan was going to call me on Thursday.
And you got the pressure of no work, some
Yes.
work,
And-
trying to see how we can make this work.
and a terrible case. I
Yeah,
thought,
and a
right?
terrible case.
Or it's terrible.
Yeah, the
challenging
optics.
case.
Yeah.
Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday. I woke up every day. Woke up Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, Thursday morning, nothing. I'm like, I'm not taking this case. Dan calls me Thursday around noon. He goes, Vance, sorry, this is how the people in these circles talk. Have you heard from the Lord yet? And I'm like, no, Dan. And in fact, it's no.
Right.
So he goes, all right, well, I told Sue I'd call her on Friday. You think about
One
it,
more day.
and I'll call you tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm like, what a waste of my time.
Yeah.
And this is my buddy.
Right.
He's trying to help. She had a 1-year-old child and no husband now.
Okay.
And so I go to bed Thursday night, prayed. I wake up Friday morning, nothing. I'm like, well, okay. And there's two views on prayers. God leaves it to you, or God answers your prayer.
Right. If he's leaving
I
it to
felt
you,
like
it's
he
a
was
no.
leaving it
Yeah,
to me.
yeah.
And if it was up to me, I'm allowed to say no.
Yeah.
It's not like I heard God say yes
Make
and
this
say
case.
no, and,
Yeah.
and now I'm Jonah.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, it was, I didn't hear anything, so
Yeah.
I'm going to say no. So I get to my office like 8:45. I set up. Every Friday at 9 a.m., I get a email daily devotional, Christian daily devotional. That day's email, and Steve was going to call me at 9:30. At 9 a.m., the email was James, in the New Testament of the Bible, Christian Bible, chapter 1, verse 31. Do not forsake the widows and the orphans in their time of distress. And the whole email was about helping widows and orphans. So I'm like, this is crap. I go get my Bible. I'm like, I'm not buying this.
Right. I need a different
There's
version.
no way the God of the universe is emailing me and telling me to take this
Right,
case.
right.
So I go get the Bible. I open it up.
That's
Multiple
the-
translations. That's what it says.
Yeah.
Steve calls me at 9:30. Steve's like, hey, Vince, Dan.
I know it's a no.
He goes, Dan, I know it's a no. I said, no, we're doing it. He goes, what do you mean? I go, I got an email from God. I got to do this.
Wow.
We did it. So, in the middle of that case against the county, a southern county in Illinois, we end up 3 years later. Bada bing, bada boom. We settled, so we didn't have to go to trial for $340,000. In the middle of that case, Sue had another problem, and Sue hired me and Dan hourly, and we worked up a bill on that other problem. And that other problem, Sue said she'd pay us from the settlement. And she did.
Oof.
So we get the settlement check in, and Dan calls me. He goes, "Take the 20 grand out of that." And I'm like, "Dan, it's two different cases."
Right.
And Dan's like, "I don't care."
Right.
She said she was going to pay us. I'm like, so I called her, and she goes, "Nah, mail me my check." I said, "I would like to take the 20 grand out," and she goes, "No, mail me my check, and you made enough money on these two cases." And I was like. So I hung up the phone, I called the Bar Association. They have a hotline for ethics. I call them, I'm like, hey, this woman, I got some proof and that she's gonna pay it, but she says she wants to get the whole check, and now she says she's not gonna pay me. I actually know she's not gonna pay me. This was going where you think. They're like, no, you represent one matter here, one matter there. You have to mail her her portion of her settlement check and wait to get paid. That, when I had to go home and tell my wife, it was when my wife said, you and Jesus are going to make us broke because I got beat by an unethical person.
Wow. Even after helping.
Yeah. Now, Dan and I made great money on the
Right,
1/3 of the
yep.
settlement. We had hourly work, but so do you know what I'm going to say this.
Yeah.
99.999999999%. Actually, there's only one lawyer in the city of Chicago who didn't take that money out of that check, and that was me.
Yeah.
And I even had my partner Dan saying, "Do it." Because Dan's like, "This is ridiculous."
Right.
Well, no, the ethics rules were clear. And by the way, she would have had to sue us.
Right.
We would have had the proof, but it would have been a 5-year headache.
Yes.
So I wasn't going to do anything unethical.
Right.
And that's where it was, first of all, I was doing good Christian yeoman work to help out this person. I was told by the Lord to go, and then sometimes you got to follow the rules no matter what.
Oof.
And it costs 20 grand. But I got my integrity, and I believe the God of the universe rewards obedience, and I lived by that.
Well, that we're coming up on an hour here, Vince. That right there says everything. And what the nuance of it is, it's the little test. Just take that out of your name. Just don't mention that. Just that, and all of a sudden,
oh, it was progressive.
Yeah, it was progressive.
Don't put an organization on your resume. Don't put it on a website.
Yes,
and then cash. Cash is so hard.
Yeah,
man. Like that's when you're because it promises. Money promises what God promised. Money promises stature, security, and things.
Yes.
Well, so does the God of the universe. And I had to forfeit that money, trusting that what I didn't get out of that was going to be true anyway.
Well, that's great. And you know what I noticed just about the business world, or any other, or family life, or relationships, we're constantly trying to compartmentalize that faith is over here. Your church, how you talk to your Bible study friends and all that, and then over here is just the dogfight. Yeah. And everything goes. Gloves are off. You gotta watch out for yourself.
I'm sorry, I didn't answer that. Which is, it's not just on Sunday. What you're really saying is like one of the preachers, they say, being a Christian is not just on Sunday.
Right.
Actually, being a Christian is Monday through Saturday. You want to know I'm the best Christian ever when I don't have to talk to people.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
Everyone's a great Christian when you don't have to deal with people.
Absolutely.
Do you realize how good you listening here, how good are you when you don't have to deal with people? So rubber hits the road. So anyway, you got to integrate it daily, or you're not integrating it. But then, how do you help the world? How do you impact? How do you spread light and justice if you're not doing it daily?
Absolutely. Vince, masterclass in how to build a business, treat your clients, partner with agents for great success, care about your clients, and integrate your real beliefs and core values into everyday life. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you for having the opportunity to share.
Yeah, Vince Auricchio, Auricchio Law, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the People Not Titles podcast. We are proudly sponsored by Land Trust Title Services. If you enjoyed the podcast, please hit the like button, please subscribe, and we'd love it if you'd share our podcast with your friends. Thanks a lot.